This is Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. We have a very special guest today. Darren Prince is with me. He's a sports and celebrity agent, but his story of overcoming is instructive and powerful. The book he wrote is Aiming High. We talk all about it. Stay tuned. The Good Life is next. Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I have a special guest with me today. Darren Prince is with me. Darren is a prominent sports and celebrity agent. He's a global advocate for addiction and recovery. He owns the Prince Marketing Group, which represents icons in our country: Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Charlie Sheen, Denise Richards, Dennis Rodman, Chevy Chase, and many others. So he's been successful in his line of work, but the bigger story really is kind of the life story that he's had. And so Darren, I welcome, first of all.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I wanted to start actually, before we kind of get into your story, but I wanted to start with your father, because I know he was maybe your closest friend. He was somebody you look up to. I know he passed away recently, but just coming off of Father's Day, I thought, Martin Prince, what can you tell us about him?
He was once in a generation type of guy. And I can't put it into words. A lot of people look at my mission, what I'm doing, and tell me what a wonderful thing it is and how kind I am, and trying to, change the stigma and help change and save lives. And I still to this day say, hey, if I can go to heaven one day, half the man my father was, I think I did an incredible job. He was everything to me. He taught me business. He believed in me. He saw this kid that was labeled with a so-called learning disability in small classrooms, but he saw greatness that nobody else saw. He saw the way my brain worked with numbers. He saw a hustle when it came to the merchandise business that I used to be in. And instead of focusing on all the negatives that the teachers said and friends would make fun of me, he was like, come here. And he'd pull me aside and give me that time every single night. And I think with that, it slowly built some confidence in me that I didn't know that I had. And, during the toughest times of my life, he was just always, this too shall pass. It could always get worse. So when I preach that to people now, and how I'm able to deal with craziness in business or whatever it might be that's going on, that's Martin Prince speaking. Dennis Rodman and I spoke 2 days ago. He called me from Atlanta, and I said something. He goes, man, you sound just like your dad.
Oh, really?
And he goes, I'm not saying it in a bad way. I mean, they would speak for an hour. On his birthday, Hulk Hogan would call every year. Magic Johnson, the Kleins just adored him. Smoking Joe Frazier was like a second son to him.
Wow.
And he would call him dad. He was just, like I said, just
wow.
a rare, rare human being that was just always like that.
Wow.
It took a lot to get him, shaken.
And you started your first business, was baseball cards?
At 14.
At 14, and you sold it for like $1 million or something. There's some story.
Yeah, when I was 19 years old.
How did you do that?
Well, that's another Martin Prince story. I came downstairs when I was a teenager, and my intro to business teacher, Elliot Lovey, who I'm still close with to this day, if there was one teacher that gave me hope within myself, it was him. And he challenged everybody to create a business. Now, in my mind, I would go home after school. I wasn't the best student, but I would sort my baseball cards in these little plastic holders that have a price gun. I'd put the prices on the back of the cards, but I had nobody to sell them to. But in my mind, I knew I was amassing a collection because I was a late bloomer with women. I didn't care about partying. And I would buy everybody's collections for $20, $30. And I had 4 different jobs: squeezing orange juice. I was a busboy at a diner. I worked in the stockroom of a sneaker store in town, and I was delivering newspapers. So I would take all that money, and everybody was like, oh, Prince is an idiot. He's buying everybody's baseball card collections. What's he going to do with these frickin' stupid cards? Before you know it, I put it together a pretty valuable collection. I asked my dad one night, I said, I need insurance on my cards. He looked at me like I was nuts. He's like, what do you mean insurance? I go, Dad, if you ever get a flood or a fire, I'm nervous. I got some expensive cards. So he's like, what do you need? I said, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9. And he goes, okay. He goes, I'll call the homeowners. I'll get you $1,000 worth of insurance. He thinks his son's losing his mind. I go, no. And I'm in my pajamas, and I'm pulling at his shirt. I go, no, Dad, 8 or 9,000. And he looks at me, he's like, how did you get $8,000 or $9,000 worth of cards? And why are they worth that much? And who's actually going to buy these things? So I ran upstairs in my pajamas to my bedroom. I come downstairs with this price guide and a newspaper ad for this baseball card show. When I start showing them, this is worth $50, this is worth $100, this is worth $20. And he challenged me, and he goes, so there's a baseball card show. What is it? What's your investment to go set up at this show? And how do you know you're going to make money? I go, well, Dad, it's $30 for a table for the entire day. One of my good friends, Steve Simon, who coincidentally runs Prince Marketing Group right now, he's vice president. We know each other since we were 10. We decided to split the investment, and I spent every single night after school preparing the most beautiful display with professionally. There was no internet back then, so my dad had a typesetting company, and I paid his staff to do these beautifully typesetted signs. And Steve maybe prepared all for 3 hours. I prepared for 2 weeks. He went there more for the just enjoyment of it. I knew right away this was going to become a business. And when that show opened at 9 o'clock in the morning, it was a family affair. I was up at 5 in the morning in the kitchen with anxiety and just my palms sweating, my heart palpitating. There was just something happening that came alive in me like I never felt before.
Wow.
And my mom came, my grandma came, my dad came, and I made over $2,000 at 14 years old on that Sunday afternoon. And I took over the room from one end to the next. I was in my element, and people were coming to me for advice on certain rookie players and who was hot and who's better, Darryl Strawberry or Don Madden or Tony Gwynn or Wade Boggs. And they were just enamored by the way I kind of broke things down. And
wow.
I just felt like I came alive. And
but that was your first taste of business.
Yeah. And I just knew I knew what I was talking about, so I had some confidence in myself. But when you talk about the personal demon, when I came home that night, and I'm with a pile full of cash, and more cards than I went with, I did a lot of great purchases. I remember lying in bed, and that feeling was gone, and I went back to feeling like the loser from the back of the room in high school. That whatever that was, during those 7 or 8 hours, that took me out of myself.
Out of your head.
Exactly who I needed to be. It was so euphoric. And, I needed more of it, and I finally found an artificial way to get it by accident, sleepaway camp. And I had stomach pains one night, and the nurse that I was taking to, the counselor took me, gave me this green liquid, and I didn't know what I was taking, but it tasted horrible. As I'm walking across the softball field, I remember the feeling like yesterday. I just lit up. I felt like Superman. Every one of those loser labels, inadequacies, feeling of less than, not going to make it, not going to graduate high school, don't even think about college, went away in an instant. And I got back to the bunk, and now I'm just lit, and I'm talking with the guys. I'm the cool one, the buff one, the funny one. I got the courage to go to the bunk next door and flirt with girls for the first time in my life at 14 years old, and they're laughing with me, not at me. And Darren, you're so cute, you're so funny. And it's just like, I need more of this. I just need more of this. And the next day I woke up thinking nothing of it, did all my activities, and that very next night I'm lying in the bunk with no stomach pain. But I remember, again, like yesterday, 36 years ago, I got to get more of that, whatever that was. So I heel over and I tell the counselor my stomach's killing me. We've got to go back to the infirmary. I did it for 3 straight weeks every night until Mom and Dad came up for Parents' Day and found out I was taking liquid Demerol. Demerol.
Wow.
So for the better part of 24 years, I chased that feeling. I came to a drug party, I like to say, when I was 14, and I didn't leave until 24 years later when I was suicidal and broken.
Take us to that day. You're in New York City. Take us to the day when you threw the pills away, or whatever the story.
I got to take a deep breath because this one's right around the corner. It's coming up next week, the anniversary.
Oh,
God
is it
willing.
really?
So it was July 1st of 2008, and you would have thought I had it all. The beautiful wife, the cars, the money, the clients, the notoriety at the top of an industry, and what was once living to use turned out to using to live. And the gig was up. And my uncle and his then girlfriend Andrea were visiting my mom in New Jersey, and they paid a surprise visit. And I didn't know anything about this woman. I heard they just started dating, and she came in, and I was bloated. I was white. I had the shakes. I was just ready to go to rehab, not wanting to go to rehab. I'm too important to go to rehab. Just all the ego, crap that comes along with that. And she asked if I was okay, and I said I'm not. I just opened up to her. Something happened with me and her. I felt a connection that I didn't feel for a very long time with the person. And I told her what was going on. And she's like, "Do you realize that you're an addict and that your life's so manageable?" I said, "Absolutely." She goes, "Do you realize that you're powerless?" And I said, 100%. And she told me words I'll never forget. "Do you realize that it doesn't matter if you're from Yale or Jail or Park Avenue or Park Bench, the disease of addiction does not discriminate." I said, "I get it." And she goes, "You want to do anything it takes because I could help you get a life behind your wildest dreams. Because this stuff that you have going on the outside doesn't mean nothing if you don't mean nothing."
Right.
And
Right. Wow.
yeah, in tears, I said, I'm desperate. I'll do whatever it takes. And she put me on a detox plan. I probably should have gone to rehab looking back at it. And on that 24th hour, it was New York City, July 2nd, 2008. And I came back from the gym. I was living in the Carolyn building with my then wife. And I was just shaking, miserable, diarrhea, vomiting, the chills, hot flashes, crawling out of my skin. And I called them up, my uncle and his girlfriend. I said, "I can't do this." I said, "I'm calling the freaking doctor. I gotta get whatever you need to get." I said, "My brain is so opiate deficient. I can't even function without it." And they both snapped and said, "This is the goddamn disease talking. It's time you grow the F up.
Really?
Become accountable. Take an action. Stop the talk and deal with the underlying root that caused all this." And I said, "I'm not doing it." And they said, "Well, you got to get yourself to a 12-step frickin' meeting because that's the only hope you have." And I hung up the phone. I ran into the bathroom looking for 2 non-narcotic anxiety pills that were going to help take the edge off. And out came 2 Vicodins. The last 15 years of my using, I was a heavy opiate addict, very functioning opiate addict. It was Oxycontins, Percocets, and Vicodins. Like I was eating them like Pez candy. And out came 2 Vicodins. Now, me and Simone, my ex, we swore we cleaned out every medicine cabinet. And for some reason, those were there, and it was just such a sense of relief. That I thought was a God moment. Exactly what I needed at the exact time. And then the magic happened because I fell on my knees, and my eyes shut, tears rolling down my face. She's hysterical in the living room because she knew how hard I had to put in to get 36 hours clean. And I said, "God, I can't do this anymore." I said, I need you. I'm begging you to take the chains off of me and to take the money, the notoriety, the business. I don't care. I need a single day of freedom. I need to feel like me when I was a little kid. And I said, "I'll do anything." And it hurt me. A lot of people don't get that white light moment in life. But
Wow.
it happened because I felt this burning hot sensation on my right shoulder, like I was on fire. And I'm deaf in my left ear, and I heard it specifically in my right because I know he wanted me to hear it, the God of my understanding. And I heard the voice, "I've got you when you're ready."
What?
"I've got you and you're ready."
I've got you when you're ready.
And I stood up, I flushed the pills. It was like my hand was numb. It wasn't me. And there was no Uber back then. I ran into the living room with Will, I guess for the first time in my life, and went up to the computer to a 12-step meeting and wound up in a taxi cab. 10 minutes later, as I look up at the sky, and I said to myself for the first time, "What the heck is going on?" This is the first time in my life that I wanted to stay sober a little bit more than I wanted to get high. And I walked into a church basement. That date was July 2nd, 2008. I remember walking in, thinking to myself, "This is a nightmare. This is the worst day of my life." And now I look back and I said it was the best because, what I thought was the end, truly turned out to be a new beginning. And, Hulk Hogan told me after I celebrated a year sober, he posted this on my 50th birthday, and it's so profound because I didn't think about it like this, but he said to me, we were together for lunch a month ago, that when you come to God correct and ask for the blessing, that eventually he's going to touch you and make you unto others. and that's what's happened.
Wow. That is unbelievable.
Mm.
July 2nd, 2008.
Mm.
So let's go back for 1 second. I don't want to spend too much time before July 2nd, 2008, but you like you said, even while using, you had built this unbelievable clientele at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, one, how did you do that? I mean, how do you get the clients that you've had? And two, there was a meeting that you were part of that is famous, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, when they met and I guess reconciled.
Yep.
And you were kind of the only other person there, you put it together. Mm-hmm. So maybe start with that meeting and then maybe we can talk about your clients. But what happened that day?
Well, I was representing Smokin' Joe from 1995 on, so at that point maybe it would have been 7 years. And Muhammad, I represented him through my friend Harlan Winter, who was his longtime marketing agent. And we tried so many times to get them together. But the hate and the resentment against each other and the name calling and the media sensationalizing it and always keeping it alive. You know, one day Muhammad would be okay with wanting to make amends and then Joe wouldn't be. And then one morning Joe would wake up and say, hey man, I want to see the butterfly, because that's what we would call him. Muhammad wasn't ready. And about 6 months prior to the meeting, Muhammad did a front page story with the New York Times. And it said, I want to apologize to Joe Frazier for everything I've said about him. I didn't mean to hurt him. I didn't mean to hurt his family. It was all done to promote the fight, promote our iconic trilogy and legacy together. And I wouldn't be Muhammad Ali without Joe Frazier, and Joe wouldn't be him without me. And that's one hell of a man. I like to shake his hand next time I see him.
Wow.
And my dad would work on both of them too. Every time we were with each one of them, would talk about, you know, it's time. The war. There's wars going on around the world.
Right.
If you two can show the rest of them and these other countries that you can make peace, could inspire other countries to do the same. And
wow.
It was 2 nights before the NBA All-Star game on a Friday. The All-Star game was on a Sunday night. I was in Philly, and Joe always wanted it on his turf. Joe still had trust issues with Muhammad and needed it to be in his hometown. He didn't want to go to LA or Louisville, where Muhammad lived, or in Phoenix, Arizona. He was open to it, but it had to be for some reason in Philly. So I got a call from Damon Bingham and Lonnie Ali. Damon Bingham is Muhammad's late best friend, the famed photographer Howard Bingham. And Damon also passed away sadly. He and Lonnie called and they said, hey, we heard you're in town. Harlan said you guys are going to be going to the All-Star game. And Lonnie's like, why don't you and Joe and Marvis come by our hotel suite tomorrow night for dinner? I mean, I'm like just shaking at this phone call. And I'm with one of my business partners, Nick Cordasco, and I'm like putting the phone on hold. I was like, bro, we got to get Joe to do this. We got to get Joe to do this. And I said, we'll be there. Because I didn't even ask him. I was like, I don't care if I got to get 5 people. We're dragging his ass to Muhammad Ali's suite.
Right.
And the only thing that was bittersweet was my dad was 2.5 hours away. He wasn't able to come. And plus, it was obviously super, super intimate. And Harlan, who was half the orchestrator being on the Ali side, was in Vegas for a huge conference. So I called him up and he goes, Darren, you got to make this happen. Don't worry about me not being there. This is history. And there'll be another time. There will be another time. And I told Joe, and there was no pushback whatsoever.
Wow.
He goes, the butterfly wants to have dinner. He goes, all right, man. He goes, what time? He goes, I'll be there. And then he called up Marvis, and the 4 of us were, we met maybe like an hour before. And what they don't know was I was in and out of my hotel room bathroom, probably at least 3 different occasions, chopping up Percocets and snorting them, because I didn't feel worthy for a second to be in the room with these 2 kings. And oddly enough, they loved and respected me more than I ever loved and respected myself.
Wow. But you still remember? Do you remember?
I remember the whole experience.
The whole experience.
Yeah.
But you were snorting Percocet in the bathroom.
I was lit up, but I remember it all.
Do you remember?
I remember
what
there's
they talked about?
I remember there's a certain point where we're having dinner and they're going back and forth. Muhammad's biting his bottom lip and he's like, Joe Frazier Joe Frazier. He goes, the gorilla. And he goes, and Joe drops his fork and goes, man, I had to whip your ass for 42 rounds. I thought we just made peace back there. We're going to go for a blood fight? And I'm like, oh, this is just incredible. This is going on. We're like, I think it was Ali's son, Nelson Mandela, a few months earlier. Joe was with President Clinton. I was just like, this is like, but I remember in that moment too, I was queasy. I did a little bit too much of the opiates and my hands were sweating. And I was like talking to myself, I'm like, why couldn't you be more present for this? Like, just you should have had a drink, or just, it always came to something to take the edge off. But I still remember everything. I just know physically I wasn't feeling the way, obviously spiritually.
And so that was in '08.
That was in 02.
Okay, so let's go back to '08 and then forward. So talk about the process of, and I hear this a lot in the recovery community, of kind of the self-hatred to liking yourself, or not feeling comfortable, not belonging, not feeling like you deserve to be in the room, to I'm Darren Prince, I like myself. I mean, talk about how that happens, and I'd like to hear your testimony of that happening for somebody who's watching this right now, who's in that room, down and out, hates themselves, can't get free. Tell us about it.
Well, they talk about it in amends, and the first amends you have to make is with yourself. That's why it's called the 12 steps. And what people don't realize, if you go back to the original fellowship, June 10th, 1935, it was Dr. Bob and Bill W. when they started AA. The only step that's got the word alcohol in is step 1. There's been since over 200 12-step fellowships that have adapted from their program, from all different things, from gambling and overeating. And those steps are designed as a way to clear out spiritually whatever it might be that's caused the self-harm, the self-hatred, the self-doubt. I never had self-hatred. Mine was just always a feeling of less than, not feeling a part of, not deserving of whatever it was that was, coming my way. In the end, when it got so dark, I hated myself. I hated this double life image that I've created. But one day at a time became a week, became a month. I became immersed into as many 12-step meetings as I can get. And then the real gift came after I celebrated a year. I started actually sponsoring other people. And I realized that's what it's about. Because to develop real self-esteem in life, for any of us, it's about doing esteemable acts. It's about giving back. Not just financially, it's of yourself, of your time, of your present moment when other people are struggling. And for me, it's not just in and outside of recovery. I know that I'm living my higher self if I'm helping Earth friends, whether they need a little pick-me-up, support, a talk, a voice. Yes, sometimes it could be, financially or opportunistic, if there's something I can do for somebody. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just to be present and there in that moment and be that source of safety to talk about your deepest stuff that's going on and to be accountable and, ask me what I think. And I've got a lot of people in my inner circle, clients included, that I know stuff that nobody in their life knows because I've been touched. I know I have been. Because I feel it every morning. And I've got God-managed coincidences. I call them GMCs.
Like God?
I call them God-managed coincidences, GMCs, that you cannot make up. And I've got a lot of people in my inner circle that see them happen. And, it's, I feel it's like a privilege at this point. That I'm able to speak to high school kids, grammar school kids, college students, adults. I've been at galas, functions. I've been to the White House when President Trump signed the $6 billion opiate epidemic bill on October 24th of 2018. I was one of 200 guests. I've been on Dr. Oz, Chris Cuomo, Tucker Carlson, 57 speaking engagements last year.
Wow.
And I know that he's working through me because, when I wrote Aiming High with my amazing publisher, Anna David, and Krista McGinnis, the writer, my co-author, we just wanted to help some people. but we never thought in a million years that that would lead to international bestseller in 4 countries. Banyan Treatment Center, which is one of the largest privately owned. They've got 12 properties. I've got my own call center number for people now that they can call, like
right?
8886-DARREN. And if you don't have the financial means, they will get you in there. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
8886-DARREN.
Yep, DARREN.
That's really good.
And now I've got, for people like me, Elite Home Detox, which is something I probably would have loved, where you can detox in 7 days, because I think a lot of people that are in a position, whether it's corporately or not, you're afraid of that 28 days. It scares the crap out of people to be holed up and locked up. So now if you could do something in the safety and the comfort of your own home with the right nurses and doctors, and come out that new person and get that psychotherapy or that psychiatrist or that spiritual awakening that you need. Had I not come out, none of these resources would have been out there, and every single one of them are helping so many people.
That's amazing.
Which is
that's amazing. And does it feel, Darren? Does it feel like it's almost the blessings chasing you, almost?
Absolutely.
I mean, because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's plenty of days where I'll literally just sometimes lie up in bed at night and I'll cry to myself, because it just gets so overwhelming that I know there's going to be something happening tomorrow. There's going to be a random from England that comes in on my Instagram, or a media opportunity that's really going to be able to help me send this message to millions of people that are sick and suffering and living with the stigma, to understand that the strength comes from making that change. The strength comes from taking that bottom and making it a beginning. And like I learned the 5 A's, which is attitude adjustment, accountability, action, and acceptance. And I took those early on in the 12-step program, and I put them into my heart and my mind, and I lived that every single day. And I'm still not perfect, just because I'm sober. It doesn't mean I don't have a big mouth on me once in a while. I try to taper it down and do what I have to do to, I say it often, say what I mean what I say, and not say I mean. Because I don't want to be that person. I lost all rights to chemical dependency and chemical relief. So for me to have to open up my big fat mouth sometimes, or texting or emailing, and then have to apologize, it's an emotional hangover. I don't know, it could be around for 3-4 days. So, I'd rather just stay in that pace of peace and not engaging and just trying to be a better person. Yeah.
Talk about one day at a time. So this is obviously something that's well known in recovery communities and AA rooms, but you don't kick this thing really. I mean, it's the book says there's a daily reprieve.
Yep.
Talk about that and what that is like for you even now. Because even though you're 12 years in or whatever it is, I mean, I'm assuming you still think in terms of today.
Every day. I mean, self-confidence is a liability in recovery. Because I'm coming up on 12 years doesn't mean anything. I'm that much closer to my next relapse, and I can tell you that. Because this guy, he does not need a drink or drug in his system to act unsober. I know a little bit more than I knew 12 years ago. I want to sponsor Steve to humble me real quick if I ever get out there to think I got this, because I've got nothing. I've learned more from people in a room counting days with 4 or 5 days that throw their hand up than I have with people that have celebrated 40 years.
Is that right?
And that's the great thing about it, because nobody's better than anybody else.
Right.
We all got the moment of today, of right now, to be the best person that we can be, and most importantly, take the gift that we've been given and give it away to other people, because I know I can't keep it unless I give it away. And there's days that I'm just off. I'm human. There's days I call the crap manufacturing machine, or between these 2 ears, and I'll just roll around in something for hours. But the great thing about the new Darren Prince coming up on 12 years sober is I now know what I need to do to get out of my own way. And whether it's helping somebody else or helping a friend, a coworker, somebody struggling, I now have the tools to get out of my own head. So I can roll around with it as long as I want or as little as I want, and take an action to, like I said, get this thought process changed immediately. Focus on that gratitude list.
Yes. Say that again. The self-confidence is the enemy of...
It's a liability.
It's a liability
in
recovery. That's really fascinating. So you've been given the gift. You want to give it away. People are finding you. You told me that the other day. I mean, you're doing a lot of speaking. I want to talk about the book in a second, Aiming High, but you're dealing with a lot of people. So let me frame it this way, because this is, I think, a common thing. Somebody's watching right now,
Yeah.
and they've got a family member.
Mhm.
Let's just start with a family member. They've got a family member tied up in knots on drugs or alcohol or both, and they don't have any idea what to do.
Mhm.
What do you say?
I tell whoever it is I'm available 24/7, but they've got to call me. I don't reach
You
out.
tell the addict.
They have to call me. I don't reach out to anybody.
They got to call you.
They got to call me.
What do you say to them? in
Because
the
if
first
somebody
conver-
wants it bad enough, they're going to call me.
Right. So they have to want it.
They got to want it bad enough. Yep. I tried that early on, and nobody
You can't chase them.
nobody got it. And my sponsor told me the same thing. And all my spiritual brothers and sisters that have got some time, I don't care. You don't call me. I'm not picking up that. I'm not picking up that phone to call you. I need that energy. I need that spirituality good for people that really have the willingness to change and find a better, sober life. So that's where I'm going to use it. But you need to tell me what's going on. Honestly, you need to tell me how
Okay.
desperate and broken you are, and I
Okay.
can tell you what's worked for me.
But what do you say to the mom of the 21-year-old
Oh, they
kid?
can't give up. I mean, look, you can't give up hope. But if mom called me, I tell them it's everything. They can look me up online. They can watch me on certain interviews, podcasts, talk shows, print-related stuff. Because if somebody truly wants it, I guarantee you from this interview, from other interviews I've done, or even reading part of my book, they're going to be able to identify. They're going to put aside the BS title of that whole super age or whatever people want to call me, because I know that's not true. I'm just a degenerate drug addict looking to give this gift away one day at a time, and I'm sober today. That's how I view myself. But they're going to be able to identify if they're struggling that bad.
Yeah.
And that's when that light's going to come on. But I got to speak to this guy, because I've done it. I haven't done it a few times. It's happened hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, especially with this book. With the platform it's given me, where just random people from all over the world will reach out, and we ship them out now for free. I don't even care. The book wasn't even a money thing to me. Thank God I'm blessed with Prince Marketing Group. But, this was, during the pandemic especially too, people created the worst version of themselves,
Right.
between drugs and alcohol and other substances.
Right.
And we ran Zoom meetings with a bunch of addicts and alcoholics on it.
Did
And
you
it was
really?
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You log onto Zoom, you see your spiritual brothers and sisters right there, and you run a freaking meeting, and that 1 hour you get makes the rest of the day the best of your day. But you got to put that effort in. I can't stay sober on yesterday's sobriety. It does nothing. That was yesterday. I got to wake up today and do it all over again.
Wow.
And I get those calls all the time. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, husbands, wife. I had a woman call me I went to high school with about 2 months ago, that her ex-husband was struggling bad. He had 4 years. He stopped going to meetings. I said, yeah, of course, because I still go to meetings to find out what happens to people that stop going to meetings. And
Wow.
that's what happened. They either get locked up, covered up, or they get cleaned up. And I spoke to him. I got him into a treatment center. Me and Brandon Novak, my spiritual brother from Jackass, he's got a massive platform. He spoke to the guy too, and he was ready to go. And he called us both the night before and said, thank you. And 4 days later, I got a call from a woman that he left the rehab and passed away. I called up Brandon because we're so used to this. And I go, man, what a shame. We thought we had this one. Because, man, it's, we can't save everyone. It's just, it's part of it. I said, bro, I look at it like this. I know a lot of people would say, how can you say that? But it's just the truth. I'm part of a one day at a time lifelong fellowship where I need to see people fail and die so I can live. And I'm not afraid of relapsing and dying. Because if Darren Prince was to go bad and go out there again, I know I'm going to pick up where I was 12 years ago. My system's not going to be able to handle it. I'm deathly afraid of relapsing and living. That's the part that scares the crap out of me.
Wow. So I think a lot of parents, spouses of the person who's struggling, tend to want to, of course, to make everything okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, if you call it enabling or whatever you want to, the term is, but Is it better earlier on in the process to just decide, you know what, that person needs to experience the consequences or the pain? Don't save them from it because that's just going to delay this. Is it better to just say, you know what, he might die, he might, I don't know what, but until he gets to that point, nothing's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, how do you view that?
You know, I think it depends on the situation, but honestly, if I was a parent now and was dealing with my kid, that's exactly what I would do, because I know that everybody has their own journey. And nobody was able to talk to me, not my mom and dad. I needed to find my own bottom. You know, I needed that gift of desperation, which I had in New York City. On the night of July 2nd, 2008, when I hit my knees, and that gift of desperation slowly gave me that power of choice back in my life. And then once I had the power of choice back in my life, hope and recovery began. You know, nobody could have jammed that down my throat.
Wow.
I had to want it more than anything. To this day, there's nothing that comes even remotely close to my recovery. I could lose the business tomorrow, wind up broke. I know that I found me.
Yeah.
And I would lose this big, beautiful apartment. I would lose the ability to take care of friends and families and coworkers and the generosity side that, you know, I love. But I'd wind up on a couch or a small little studio and I'd figure life out, because when you find your real self, it's something most people don't ever get to in a lifetime.
Yeah, really.
When you get that true inner peace of loving yourself, not because of what I do. You know, the celebrity thing, like I said, with all due respect to my clients, they and myself, they became who they were long before Darren Prince.
Yeah.
You know, I just have a special talent working with special talent and knowing how to manage different personalities. I truly believe anybody can negotiate business deals for these people. It's not that much of a gift.
I kind of doubt that.
You know? So, because to me it's about humility and understanding that to stay sober, to stay on the right spiritual path, this is an ego-crushing fellowship. You know, the minute I think I'm somebody special, that's when I'm in a dangerous place.
The book is Aiming High, how a prominent sports and celebrity agent hit bottom at the top. That's a great tagline too. So I commend it to you, Aiming High by Darren Prince. I want to finish with kind of a little lightning round here. I'm going to say a name and you give me a sentence or two about either something about them or what they mean to you. Dennis Rodman.
My brother. Big brother, sometimes little brother, depending on the day if we're fighting or not.
Muhammad Ali.
The GOAT. There's no one else. Greatest of all time, but not just in the boxing ring, and not just what he meant, you know, culturally, but the individual was. We'll never see the likes of him again.
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie's just a beautiful soul, man. Very misunderstood. I spoke to him about a week ago. I saw him a few weeks ago. He's in a great, great place. He's in a great, great place and deserves, you know, some blessings in his life, because, like I told him, you gave the gift of laughter to hundreds and millions of people, and you can't put a price on it.
That's great. Hulk Hogan.
It's, you know, again, he's my big brother. I mean, we've been through a lot together, and he's, I get the blessing of knowing the real Terry Bollea, and he's a special man.
Joe Frazier.
By the way.
Joe Frazier.
Yeah,
Go
because
for
he
it.
was my nearest and dearest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He used to say there's no wrong way to do right and no right way to do wrong, Prince. So always remember that.
Wow.
And yeah, never say no to anything. When I get on my knees every night and pray, I you know, ask God to please let my dad and Smoke and Joe know how much I love him and miss him.
Oh, that's wonderful. Lastly, Magic Johnson.
Oof, that's one that's always tough. It's the one that gave me my shot. It's the reason Prince Marketing Group exists to this day. I did the honor of writing the foreword in my book, and year and a half before I got clean and sober, he gave me 30 minutes on the phone because he was so worried about me. here I am working for Magic Johnson. It took me a year and a half later to get clean. But he's as proud as anybody, and it's very special to my dad as well.
Wow. Wow. This has been amazing. Thank you. Aiming High is the book. Darren Prince Marketing is the company, but this is Darren Prince, the man. Darren, thank you. This is Good Life. We'll see you next time.